I'm Justin. This is Talk Junkie. Before we get started today, it is National Poetry Month. I thought it was actually next month, and was actually misinformed that it was next month. But apparently it's this month. I have a poetry book out. You can get it you can't go in and store it now, but you can get it online at Red Spotted Newt in Hazard, Kentucky, and that's where I would prefer you get it. You can look them up on Facebook. If they was to be sold out, whatever reason, blah, 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 you can also get it on Amazon.com. It is available on there. A new poetry book is almost complete. Still working on it. The initial very, very timid release, hopefully by May, but that will depend on many, many different things that I've kind of got going on currently. It's also fairly dependent on my laziness as well. My laziness tends to have a negative effect on me getting anything done most of the time. But I'm going to try to power through and get this done. Okay. I know there's other stuff that I need to do and mention. Most of the businesses I try to kind of speak for and get anything out there for are really not open right now. So I don't know. Roundabout Music, Whitesburg, Kentucky. You can still order from them online. Check on your local tattoo artists. See if they've got something they sell. Mountain Music Exchange, a place I buy my musical equipment from if you're from Eastern Kentucky. They're doing some online ordering and things of that nature. I don't know. Try to support anybody you can support. I know it's super rough times and it's scary times, and this illness is nothing to scoff at. And what's kind of shape we're going to be in as a country and as a economy is going to be no joke after this is over with. I done the other day. I did a podcast about. Actually, I guess it probably aired Friday. I don't know. I'm not sure what day it is. But I did a podcast about some things I've been doing over the break. Something I didn't put in there. I've been listening to some podcasts over the break, so I thought I'd kind of give you a list of some of the podcasts I've been listening to. Joe Rogan Experience, it's always one of my favorite ones. I really enjoy it. National Geographic does some interesting ones here and there, and I know they have a bunch of different ones, so I'd have to go back and look at which ones are which, because I've been through a lot of those. Something to Wrestle with Bruce Pritchard, Randomness Captured Alive, Relics of the Past, Tinfoil Hat can be fun sometimes, with I think it's Sam Tripoli sometimes. Duncan Trussell's is fun from time to time. Ari Shaffir's, I don't know. He's kind of out there, but give different things a chance. Also, like I said, I'd been reading some, but I'd been doing some audiobooks as well. So I know some people that are staunchly against audiobooks, and nothing really beats having the actual physical book in your hand. But sometimes time and necessity require you to do audiobooks, and there can be some good ones out there. I did James Maynard Keenan's autobiography. On audiobook and preferred it because he had some parts in there where he kind of jumped in with the lady that the author read it, I guess, or somebody read it for the author. I'm not sure, but then he kind of jumped in as part of an interview process. Anyway, great book. Anyway, none of those things are what today's is about. Today's is a little different. Today's is I don't know. I really struggle at how to phrase this because I don't want it to be misconstrued. It's sometimes I'll make statements, and I have friends, unfortunately, who belong to both political parties. I wish they belonged to none. But it takes all kinds, and I shouldn't be that way. But I'll say something, and one of my friends who I know is clearly, I guess anymore you have to say conservative because it really, that becomes all encompassing for Republicans. But I'll say something to someone that, in my opinion, is, or I know to be rooted in conservative beliefs, and they'll go, I didn't know you were a liberal. Or I'll say something to somebody who is very set in what you would call, instead of a Democrat now, liberal, even though it's not a real liberal, stuck in a very liberal belief system, and they'll say, I didn't know you were a conservative. Rest assured, I'm neither. It makes me feel like I'm doing something right, though, because I strike that balance, and there should be some balance. Obviously, someone has to be right. And a lot of the times, it has happened to where both parties are just completely wrong. They're just trying to find different ways to take money. But there's elements of good or of accurate choices in some of the things that they do. But it's weird to me how you have to be one of the two. I don't remember it being that way when I was younger. Many of us may remember what they called straddle polls, and many of us may remember people who were very moderate. See, on terms of what we consider now conservative, which probably not really, it's way to the extreme of conservative. The Democrats used to be much closer to what we would now consider moderate. They've actually spread more left, and the rights went further right. The issue becomes, though, that they kind of isolated this middle section, and there was a point in time, at least to me, in my understanding, from my life experience, I can remember being young and someone having political preference or political ideology, and me going, that could go either way. I also remember people who were very much would say vote Republican in this election and Democrat in that election because they kind of went with the feel of the candidate. And I understand that party allegiance has always been a big thing. It seems to me, and again, I was born in '82. I can only go on limited experience. Now, I can go on statistical fact, and I can look at historical documentation. Sometimes with some things, it's more interesting how you remember them. I remember a very deep divide with the Reagan administration. I don't remember as deep of a divide with the Bush administration until he raised taxes. I remember a very seemingly all welcoming of Bill Clinton. Almost a man, we're just glad that President Reagan is gone. President Bush lied to us. Here's Bill Clinton. Let's love him. But I remember that. I do remember that becoming much more divisive, his mere existence, towards the end of his first 4-year tenure. But I guess his first 4, maybe, going into his second 4 years. I remember a deep, deep divide between Bush and Gore. Two people that in a lot of ways, Gore's probably the dumbest human being to ever live. Bush appears to be the dumbest human being to ever live. I believe Bush was a very intelligent man. I believe just for whatever reason he came across very dumb. Whereas I believe Gore was very dumb and came across very dumb. He came across intelligent at times. I think he was probably a heavy burden to Bill Clinton. On the same right, I would say that Bush was probably a heavy burden to Dick Cheney, who was more than likely running the country. But that seems to be this moment of great divide. And it become very polarizing, maybe more so than I had experienced it in my lifetime. Probably not more so than it's ever been. You know, there's been some serious political turmoil throughout the years, and some situations to where there's been some real delicate issues and things that have really been, you know, out there to the people. There's also been times where there's been more than two options. Where both options were forced to work together, you know, things of that nature. But to me, in my lifetime, that Bush-Gore victory, or I'm sorry, I was thinking ahead, that Bush-Gore election process seemed to spell kind of the end for the middle ground. It wasn't a complete and total eradication right off, but it very quickly, in my opinion, evaporated after that. I always think of the Rage Against the Machine video when I think of Bush versus Gore, and you know, if you really looked at that video and how much both parties were alike at that time, and how much both politicians were alike, the Democrats were still, to me at that point, especially the Clintons, very moderate to somewhat right-leaning. Their stance on gay marriage, their stance on abortion, their stance on a lot of things, which I've seen Bill's got a lot of illegitimate kids. I would have figured he would have been all right with killing kids. I was kind of confused by that one. But, you know, they were a very right-leaning Democratic group, and Gore was lumped in with them. Now, Gore had his own agenda, obviously, and he can't be completely tied to the Clintons. As much as I despise Bill, I would never do that. But it's a point in time to me where both parties seem to be very similar. That's something that I felt, whether it was or not, was different in the 80s. But by the end of the 90s, I felt they'd become very, very singular, very, very much connected. That could have been the Rage Against the Machine talking. I don't know. But that is how I felt. Now, from there, we go into the Bush years, which drew to really put a wedge between the parties and really started the separation. Obama came in, and really President Obama was almost victim to the Bush years. Bush had created this radical right, not even completely by his own doing. I think more so by Cheney and the fear from 9/11, and it created this. And I think the fear from 9/11 had a real impact on that. And it created this separation by fear, and I think that rolled out the far right much quicker. And I think they really emerged, to me, in my field of view, before the far left. Far before the far left. And they had about 8 years of reign there that really was somewhat uncontested. I think that the far left was a reaction to the birth of the far right. And I think that President Obama, if he had been elected 8 years after the actual point he was, may not have been as connected to the far left as some people like to connect him to. To me, he still had some of the moderate holdout policies of a Clinton era Democrat. Just he was having to adapt and lose them quickly in order to maintain the possibility of a second 4 years. And going into that second 4 years, I think he did lean a little further left, but hindsight's always 20/20. And at the time, I would have said during his presidency that he was definitely far, far left. As I look back, I think he stayed somewhat moderate, and I believe that kept his base somewhat moderate, and I do believe that helped with the election of Trump. I believe that it impacted the desire for Trump. And that's a different story for a different date I'll get into. But that's kind of just a little look at how I kind of viewed politics up until the Trump era. Now, like I said, there was a point in time where you could not really be party affiliated. You could be somebody that, I just vote for who's right. I didn't understand that as a young kid. I thought, well, now, hold on, it's not like Bulls versus Knicks, and you're saying I'm just for who plays better that game. No, you got to be for the Bulls or the Knicks. It's not Lakers, Celtics, and you're like, I'm just for whoever's in the right that game. No, you're either a Lakers fan or a Celtics fan, even when they suck, even when they're bad, and even when they're in the wrong, winning or losing. And I looked at it that way as a child because that's a child's mentality. But as I got older, I seen that, okay, the idea would be to pick the best person for the job, the best candidate to do what is required of that candidate. Okay, so that makes sense. It seems as quickly as I figured that out, and I'm not in that alone. I think there's a majority, maybe even a majority of people that feel that way. But that others just quickly went the other direction, and maybe they were already there. I mean, again, that far right was already in existence. The far left had come out, and they go in tides. The far right had a real long reign. I feel like 8 years of Bush into the first full 4 to 5 years of President Obama. So President Bush in the first 4 or 5 years, President Obama, I would give to that right. The left, I think, is on their surge now. But I still was under the impression that I did not have to be tied to one of those movements, to one of those parties. But with every Facebook post or every comment I make to a friend, every text message, every messenger, because there's a lot of times to stay in contact right now electronically because we're kind of all stuck inside. I realize that, yeah, it is that way. That it is, to my liberal friends, I'm a conservative. Even though I'm not a conservative, and even though I agree with them on a lot of things, I'm not a conservative. And they're not a real liberal. I would consider myself a real liberal. And when I'm talking to my conservative friends, I'm a liberal. But not a real liberal like I would consider myself, but a liberal like the Democratic Party has liberals now. And I don't understand that. That's not how I would have been before. Don't get me wrong. I understand how people get stuck into these groups, these teams. I did that. Fear and religion and a lot of things like that did get me stuck into a very conservative frame of mind. Being a parent for the first time, recently married, that got me stuck into a conservative state of mind for a couple years. And being a 16-year-old listening to Rage Against the Machine got me stuck into a liberal state of mind for a couple of years. It happens. We're easily influenced. We're humans. But as people, as friends, I had friends that felt... I have friends that I'm comfortable talking with that I feel are as fairly fluid on this stuff as I am. There are those friends, and I'll sound those things off them and bounce those things off them. And I have friends that are deeply rooted in parties, and as much as that really, honestly, in a lot of ways breaks my heart, I still feel it with some of them that I I can express myself. But some people I feel highly judged by. And I don't understand how. Let's look at an example. Let me really sit down and look at an example. Okay, let's look at if you guys have seen the video of the guy being pulled off the train in Philadelphia, I believe is where it was, because he didn't have a mask on. You have to have a mask to ride the train. Now we were told. Now again, and I pointed this out, we were told by a conservative president that the masks aren't needed. And then it was kind of hinted around by people that, hey, let's save the mask for medical workers. And I agree with that. I'm not saying if you have masks, don't use them. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying let's not make a run on buying these things. Let's kind of keep the availability there so that these people that really need them have them. And then there's the realization that masks, even if you want them, are extremely hard to find right now. If we take all those things into account, and look at all those things, it'd be understandable how this gentleman didn't have a mask. But the police forcibly removed him from the bus. Now, there's, maybe he has to ride it. Maybe it's his only form of transportation. Maybe he's required for it. I don't know the situation. Now, he did resist the police, which you don't do. That's ridiculous. And I guess at that point they could have taken him in. But when they get him off the bus, they just let him go. So if it's not against the law to be on the bus without the mask, then maybe when he resists, you don't feel like you have a strong enough case to charge him with anything. So if he didn't do anything against the law, how is it your place to step in and remove him? I'm just curious, and I worry about what kind of precedent that sets. Now, as soon as I say that, I'm kind of lumped into what is becoming for some reason, a conservative point of view. That's not a conservative point of view. That's fight the system. Don't let people take your rights away from you without a fight, and question authority. That is not a conservative point of view. That is not a conservative mindset. If anything, that is a true liberal mindset. That is a true rebellious mindset. That's the way we should all think. But if I say that, if I said that in the 80s, I would have been an anti-Reagan, punk, liberal, leftist, Marxist, whatever. If I say that now, I'm a Tea Party right-winger. Some people say libertarian, but a lot of people don't understand what a libertarian actually is. That may in some way fall into the mindset of libertarianism in a certain way, but a libertarian is not a real party in a lot of regards, but it is building steam. And if I was ever going to get behind a third party, that seems to be the only party out there that really shares any of my values anymore. And even though it has values I don't care for, it's the only one with any real foothold. But somehow, questioning authority has made me a conservative. Okay, now, on the same hand, the fact that I am a very, very big proponent of the separation of church and state. I don't have an issue with God and prayer being taken out of school as long as you don't be oppressive, don't take religion away from people, and don't allow other religions in. Make it a neutral playing field. I'm fine with that. I don't want to be China where they're stoning Christians. I don't want to be Iran where they're stoning Satanists. Let people believe what people want to believe. If your religion is correct, valid, and true, then it in the end will ring through and you will be blessed or whatever it is that you get. But no matter how great your faith, if you're a real Christian, I don't see you having a problem with that. See, the Protestants and Well, any of the first Christians who came to the United States came to escape the Church of England, a massively oppressive Church of England, and other religious forces who were very oppressive over there. We came for religious freedom. That's why the separation of church and state and the rules about religious freedom are in the foundation of our country. But in saying something like that, I am now extremely, extremely liberal. That can't just be an opinion. That can't just be how I feel about something. It has to have a political affiliation. And because I say that and really do believe that, then people will go the opposite way and put the moniker of liberal on me. That's the same way as to say I do not believe that people have any right to stop someone from getting married. Now that, for whatever reason, puts me into a liberal set. But I will find homosexual Christians who will agree with me on that standpoint, but then turn around and disagree with me on the fact that abortion is not a black and white option, or disagree with me on the separation of church and state. I don't understand why topics have to be isolated, restricted, choked down, chained into these binds of political parties. Because what that does is that allows politicians to use real issues that could be addressed, could be fixed, and could be eradicated, to be used as political tools and as issues for re-election. It's not because I'm an intelligent person, because in a lot of ways I'm really not. It's that plain that everyone should be able to see that. But we don't, and I don't understand why. When I say I don't watch the news, I am instantly a Trump-loving Republican. Just has to be. I didn't vote for Chester Cheeto, not even for a second. And this time, won't vote for him again. Definitely will not vote for Biden. Biden probably is in the first stages of Alzheimer's. And that was the party that didn't want a rich white man running the country. They nominated a rich white man. I will write in maybe Tulsi Gabbard or vote Libertarian, depending on who they've got running. Maybe Johnson will run again. I don't want Johnson to be president, but I'd like to see a third party emerge. But I have no party loyalty to either party. I think that the news is fake because statistically the news is opinion. And opinion is not news. And they lie a lot, and they cheat a lot, and they tell a lot of things that aren't real. So, for all intents and purposes, the news is fake. The news is fake well before Donald Trump ever said it. And the news will be fake far after Donald Trump is gone. But I am a conservative because I think the news is fake. It's astonishing to me. We are reduced ourselves to the point that we cannot have intelligent conversation, can't have debate, we can't have feelings and ideals and thoughts and beliefs and anything unless we tie them to a party. How you feel about gas prices determines your party. How you feel about the handling of COVID-19 determines your party. And that one confuses them all. It really does. Because I believe things that the Republican president does not believe. And yet, I'm a conservative for some of the things I believe. Because I believe we're in danger with some of the things that we're doing. And I believe that some of the precedents that we are setting are very dangerous. I believe in COVID-19. Yeah, there's a little bit of conspiracy theories to me. There is. And, if you look at numbers, it's not the killer they said it was. To this point. But it can get worse. There's time left. Like, I don't question it. I don't disrespect it. I don't disregard the warnings. I take it seriously. I do the things voluntarily that we need to do. I don't know the right answer. I don't know where the line should be drawn. I don't pretend to, but I can say and should be able to say that I'm uncomfortable with the situation the way it is and the way it's going. I should be able to say those things. But often, when I say those things, I'm a conservative. Unless I say them to the wrong person and say them in the wrong way, then I'm a liberal. And I catch myself doing it. I catch myself going, oh, well, that person must be very liberal. That person must be very conservative. Because it's become so ingrained. The news is divided into parties. Entertainment's divided into parties. Social media is divided into parties. Every topic is divided into party. Every vote, every tax, every issue is divided into party. There's no middle ground. Occasionally there's swings. Occasionally one party will be staunchly against something, and within 10 years' time, they'll pick it up and they'll be for it, and the other party automatically has to adjust to be against. I seen something, and I didn't even bother reading anything about it. The human turtle, Mitch McConnell, something about banning guns, and who knows? Like, I didn't read it, but that may be the new Republican agenda. The NRA may switch allegiances. They may start paying the Democrats more than they're already paying them, and more than they're currently paying the Republicans. And next thing you know, gun rights may be a Democrat issue. I don't know. I want a third party. I want that, and I want it bad. I want term limits for every politician. I want to see people sometimes go out and just vote and go, you know what? You did okay, but 4 years was enough. 2 years was enough. Whatever was enough. I'm just going to vote against the incumbent just because. Just because I want fresh blood there. I want there to be no money in politics to where only the best of us want to do it because it's the right thing to do. Because if you take away the money, you take away the power. That's what I want. And I want to be able to have ideas. I want to be able to have thoughts. I want to be able to have discussions. I want to be able to make statements and not be pigeonholed into a party because of something I say. So for all of you who've ever listened to a podcast and said, you know, he's an extremely conservative guy. And for all of you who've ever listened to a podcast and said, you know, he's a very liberal guy. Know now that regardless of which statement you made, you were grossly inaccurate. And it reflects poorly upon you. I'm me. And I'm not bound by a party, and I'm not defined by one. And my beliefs and my thoughts and my emotional attachment to various topics are not the result of a party. They're a result of a life that I've led, experiences that I've had that have got me to this point. Now, from here on out, those beliefs may change. Everything may change. But it will be because of the experiences I had in life. Not because somebody stuck me in a party and I said, okay, I accept. I'm in the process of finishing the second book. So, in lieu of a quote today, let's do a piece from that book. It's called Fire Starters. They come with a sense of urgency and purpose. These demagogues, sent by the party to win the day. They come to use your own fears to strengthen the polls. They speak with reckless tongues and set fires with their words. These rabble-rousers, set forth to manipulate and separate, sent by the corporations to divide the public, to create a rift. Are they to blame? Is it the fault of these vultures sent to feed upon our own weakness? Can they solely be accountable? Is it the provocateur on the soapbox that makes us hate? Could it be that we share the blame? We the people, we the public of individuals free to choose? We have not been forced to fall for the narrative. We choose to be lied to. We choose to be led astray by the voice of power. We allow ourselves to be programmed. Blame not the demagogues. Burn not the rebel-rousers. This is our cross to carry. This is our fire to extinguish. Fight fear with hope. Fight the firebrand's words with a passion just as furious. Think, learn, act, and change. I'd like to tell you they get better than that in the book, but I don't know if they do or not. I'm mediocre, but hey, everybody deserves a shot to try to make some money at something. Don't suck. Don't be bad to people. Don't die, and don't be a slave to a party.